Today we share Hansel and Gretel from the German brothers Grimm, told and retold across generations in a timeless woodland world. Before we go on, if you enjoy stories like this from around the world, please comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Once upon a time, near a deep forest, lived a poor woodcutter with his wife and his 2 children, a boy named Hansel and a girl named Gretel. Food was scarce, and worry weighed on the house like a heavy cloud. One night, the stepmother whispered a cruel plan. Take the children into the thickest woods and leave them there. The father's heart ached, but fear and hunger pressed hard. In their small bed, Gretel trembled, but Hansel squeezed her hand and promised to find a way back. He waited for moonlight, thinking of a clever way back home. Before dawn, the stepmother shook the children awake and pressed a tiny piece of bread into each hand. The family set out toward the great dark woods. Hansel kept glancing back. He told his father he was waving to a white cat on the roof, but really, with each careful step, he dropped a shining pebble. The path behind them began to sparkle like a silver thread. Deeper they went, where trees stood close and the air smelled of pine. The father tried to smile, but his eyes were sad. At last they stopped, and the children were told to rest by a fire while the adults went to cut wood. Hansel squeezed Gretel's fingers once more and whispered, "Trust the moon." In the heart of the woods, the father helped them build a pile of brush so the fire would be bright and warm. The flames crackled kindly, and the stepmother told them to rest while she and the father went to cut wood. The children listened to what sounded like steady axe strokes, but it was only a stick tied to a dry tree clacking in the wind. Noon came, and they nibbled their bread. Weariness stole over them, and their eyes fluttered shut. When they woke, stars pricked the sky, and the forest felt very big. Gretel's tears shimmered, but Hansel pointed upward. "When the moon climbs high," he said gently, "we'll follow the shining stones home." Moonlight spread like milk across the path. The pebbles shone like new coins, and Hansel and Gretel followed them through the still forest. They walked all night, their small feet quiet on the soft needles, until the dark shapes of roofs appeared. At break of day, they knocked at their door. The stepmother scolded them for staying so long, but the father gathered them close, relief softening his tired face. For a little while, the house felt bright again, though hunger still hovered near, thin as a cold draft around the window. Soon hunger gnawed again. At night, the stepmother urged the father to take the children even deeper where paths were unfamiliar. Hansel tried to slip out for more pebbles, but the door was locked tight. He comforted Gretel, telling her that help can come in quiet ways. Morning came. They were given smaller pieces of bread. As they walked, Hansel crumbled his share in his pocket and let tiny crumbs fall behind, saying he was waving to a pigeon on the roof. The woods thickened, and the trees seemed to listen. Again a fire was built, and again the children were told to rest. Noon slipped to evening, and evening into starry night, but no one returned. When the moon rose, Hansel took Gretel's hand and searched for the crumb trail. Yet the birds of the woods had eaten every bit. They walked through one night and the long day that followed, finding only a few berries. Their legs grew heavy and their stomachs ached. At last they curled beneath a tree and slept, huddled close for warmth and courage. On the third day, as the sun climbed high, a snow-white bird sang on a tree limb. Its voice was so lovely that the children listened, their worry slowing. When the song ended, the bird lifted its wings and flew ahead. Hansel and Gretel followed through sweet-smelling trees until they reached a small, marvelous house. Its walls were bread, its roof was cake, and its windows shone like clear sugar. Their hunger leaped. Hansel reached up for the roof, and Gretel nibbled a sugared window pane. Then a gentle voice called from inside, "Nibble, nibble, who is nibbling at my little house?" The children answered, "Only the wind," and kept nibbling. Suddenly the door opened, and an old woman stepped out on crutches. Her voice was sweet, and she beckoned the children inside, promising milk, pancakes, apples, and nuts. Hansel and Gretel, tired and hungry, followed. The little beds inside were covered with clean white linen, soft as clouds. The children ate until their bellies were warm and lay down to sleep, thinking they were safe at last. But the old woman's red eyes glittered. Her kindness was a mask, and the house was a trap for children who wandered too close. At dawn, the witch showed her true self. With a bony hand, she seized Hansel and locked him in a little pen with a barred door. She shook Gretel awake and ordered her to cook the best food for Hansel, to make him fat, while giving Gretel only scraps. Each morning the witch crept to the bars and told Hansel to stretch out his finger so she could feel if he was plump enough. Clever Hansel held out a thin bone he had saved. The witch's dim eyes were fooled day after day, and her impatience grew like smoke. 4 weeks passed, and the witch lost patience. "Fat or thin, tomorrow I will cook him," she snarled. Gretel's tears fell as she fetched water, but she kept her courage glowing like a hidden coal. That morning the witch said, "We will bake first." She showed a roaring oven and ordered Gretel to crawl in and check the heat. Gretel pretended not to understand. "How do I fit?" she asked. The witch, eager to show, pushed her head inside to demonstrate. In that moment, brave Gretel acted. With a quick, steady motion, Gretel shut the heavy iron door and dropped the bolt. She ran at once to the little pen and opened it. "Hansel, we are safe," she cried. Hansel sprang to her like a bird from an opened cage. They hugged, laughed, and happy tears shone. With relief bright as morning, they stepped into the house that had once fooled them and searched. In the corners stood chests filled with pearls and bright stones, treasures hidden by wickedness, now found by courage. "These are better than pebbles," Hansel said, filling his pockets. Gretel gathered pearls into her apron until it sagged with sparkle. They stepped away from the strange little house and hurried into the trees, glad to leave that place behind. The forest felt different now, still tall and shadowed, but no longer hopeless. The children walked with quick, light steps, guided by courage and the wish to see home again. After 2 hours, they came to a wide stretch of water. There was no plank, no bridge, and no ferry. A white duck glided nearby, bright as a little moon on the ripples. Gretel spoke kindly to the duck and asked for help. The duck came, and Hansel climbed onto its back, but Gretel said, "Not both at once. That would be too heavy. Take us one by one." The good duck carried them safely across, and they thanked it with smiles and quiet words before walking on. Soon the trees looked friendlier, and paths felt known. At last the children saw their father's cottage. They ran inside and flung their arms around their father, who had not known a single happy hour since losing them. The stepmother was gone. Gretel shook out her apron so pearls and bright stones rolled across the floor, and Hansel emptied his pockets in sparkling handfuls. The worry that had lived in the cottage melted away. Their courage and cleverness had led them home. Be brave and use your wits, and unkindness cannot hold you. And that was the story of Hansel and Gretel. What did you think of the story and the lesson? Share your comments below.